Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast, the Project Investigation Collaboration, the podcast brought to you by the Veritas Project, and as always we are here with our gracious host, founder of the Veritas Project, Robert Curtis.
Hello.
And I'm lead investigator for the Veritas Project, Todd Boyer, and welcome to the podcast, everybody.
Yeah, welcome.
It is an odd one. We're doing a Saturday night because we had stuff going on. So, but it'll still be released on Monday afternoon. So it'll still come out Monday afternoon, even though we're here recording on Saturday night. So
it's a weird week coming
up.
It's
definitely a weird week coming up. And next week is our Lemp Mansion event.
Yeah.
So our first annual meet and greet. We have all the rooms of Lemp Mansion rented, and we have people coming in. And I talked to someone today, so we might be able to get one more room. And then
that'll leave
us one room.
One space left.
So today we are going to talk about giants.
Yep.
And like fairy tale mythological giants, and the giants and the skeletons that they've been finding are kind of wild.
A lot of them in the Middle East.
Yes, absolutely. So let's get on with giants. So we're going to start with the mythological side of things. You know, giants appear in different mythologies worldwide, including Norse, Greek, Hindu. Common traits include immense size, strength, sometimes antagonistic role against gods or humans, right?
Yeah.
And then the examples include Greek Titans or Norse Jotun and Hindu Rakshasas. That's a tongue twister there. So mythological giants often symbolize natural forces, chaos, or the unknown.
Yeah.
The origins of these myths may stem from ancient humans, or natural landscapes, or skeletal remains.
Right.
So this is another situation where they have giants all over the world.
Right. Different cultures.
Different cultures have it. You know, it just... the things we talk about, it just blows my mind a lot of times because, you know, dragons, fae, giants, you know, all this stuff, every culture in the world has this stuff.
Yeah.
How did these stories and these things manage to get all the way around the world in a time when people weren't traveling the world?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's got to be something to it.
Vampires, werewolves, all that stuff. Cultures have, it's weird. It's definitely something. There's something to it. So,
the scientific basis for giants, giantism in humans is a medical condition caused by excess growth of hormones. And the tallest recorded human was actually not far from us in Alton, Illinois.
Yeah.
Robert Wadlow. He reached 8 feet 11 inches tall. And if you go down to Alton, there's actually a big statue of him that you can stand next to and take your picture and whatnot. And I am 6'7". It makes me look short.
Yeah.
It makes me look tiny. So, and Bob's 6'2", and he's like we come up to the chest.
Right.
I mean, it's that bad.
Great big dude. Like his feet were like that long.
Yeah. It's ridiculous to see in person. So, large prehistoric creatures such as dinosaurs show that natures can produce massive beings.
Right.
Skeletal structures, however, places limits on how large a humanoid can grow while still being functional. Modern science has yet to find evidence of humanoids larger than known human extremes. That is what ChatGPT says.
Yeah.
We have seen tons of things about them finding human bones and giant skeletons in caves and everything else. So when you guys use ChatGPT, which we do for a lot of our research, they are going to give you the most base, unadulterated, what am I looking for? It won't most non-conspiracy theory thing they can say.
It won't do conspiracy theories at all.
It just will not. So we're actually looking into another AI program that doesn't have a filter that will give us everything.
Right.
So going there, So it says, in archaeological evidence, right, claims of giant skeletons have appeared throughout history, but most are debunked or misunderstood. Fossils of large prehistoric animals, such as mammoths, were sometimes mistaken for giant human remains.
Yeah.
Some ancient structures, like the megaliths, were attributed to giants by early cultures, and no credible scientific discovery has confirmed the existence of a race of giants. Hoaxes such as the Cardiff giant were created to capitalize on public fascination.
Yeah.
Well, I just recently saw a video where they think they actually may have found Noah's skeleton, and his thumb bone, this thumb bone right here, is that freaking big.
Right, right.
And like big around, like an inch around. So he would have been in the giant category, and that's where a lot of the biblical long-term life comes from. They thought they were giants because what do we call that period? You said it earlier, and I can't remember.
Antediluvian
the
period.
Antediluvian. So the pre-flood, right? So the pre-flood period, they believed that the air pressure was twice as high, and there was more oxygen,
right?
Which would give way to bigger growth. So they believed that a lot of the giant folk came from that period.
Right, right.
And the remains and that stuff. They were pre-flood.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why, like you said earlier, dragonflies the size of Volkswagens. Yeah. You know. Yeah. So
they found, fossils in a hillside that were of dragonflies that were enormous.
So
and everything back then had more mass to it because of the difference in the air pressure and more oxygen. Structures could be bigger, right, basically,
because the higher pressure and the
right.
So now the Bible does mention giants such as the Nephilim in the book of Genesis.
Right.
Right. Hindu texts describe giants as powerful beings, sometimes deities, sometimes demons. And some interpretations of religious texts suggest giants were symbolic of moral or spiritual battles. Religious giants are often portrayed as being destroyed or overpowered by divine forces. These texts have fueled both belief and skepticism of giants throughout history.
Right.
David and Goliath is a good, supposedly Goliath was a Nephilim, right, and, one of these giant people. So, and I know here recently there's been a sighting in the mountains where a giant went into a door on a mountainside.
Oh, yeah.
That's a recent one that's been out probably within the last 3 months, I would say. That one came out. So there is definitely a firm belief in giants out there. So I'm going to do this here so we can see what you guys are saying. So, as far as giants, David and Goliath and all that kind of stuff, right, and with the air pressure being so high, and all these other societies having these giants, it just, and to say that there is no proof of it is just
right.
Well,
and then from what we know, and if you've been following us for any sort of time, you know that I love to poke at them. But the Smithsonian and the British Museum,
they hide stuff,
would gather up all of this stuff and ferret it away. If you discovered a giant skeleton in your backyard, the Smithsonian would be there tomorrow morning.
Yep.
Or they would have the army go there, and then your skeleton would disappear.
Well, that's the thing is, people say, someone asks, does someone actually produce a giant skull? There have been many cases where people say, yes, we have a giant skull, and then, oh, no, they don't have a giant skull. It's,
Right. They swap it with the
what is
elephant.
that TV show where they have it's the giant warehouse under... was it Warehouse 13 or something like that? Like Warehouse 13?
On the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah, on the Sci-Fi Channel, where basically they store all this stuff. They keep all this stuff stashed away that they don't want us to see. And on a rabbit hole, the Vatican has 60 miles of books.
Yeah.
60 miles of books they don't want us to see.
Mm-hmm.
So that should tell you guys something right there.
Right.
And
what's in those books? You have to be cleared and then escorted into the Vatican Library, and then you can't take anything out, and you can't bring a phone or anything in with you.
Yep.
So you know, there could be some cool stuff in there.
So,
but, you know, it's one of those things, though, like, they won't let you know what's in there.
Oh,
and
obviously
because
not.
they don't let you know, then the theories just go, you know,
just go like
wild.
crazy.
Yeah.
So, different cultures have varied interpretations of the giants.
Right.
From protectors to destroyers. Giants in folklore like Paul Bunyan, in American tales, often embody larger-than-life qualities. Some cultures see giants as ancient beings tied to the earth, representing a lost era. And giants are often depicted as isolated or banished, living in a remote or dangerous place. You know, the cultural role of giants often reflects societal values, fears, and aspirations. So,
yeah,
you know,
that makes sense if you think about that they were survivors of the flood.
Right.
They might not have their community anymore, you know, so they're like hiding in caves, or they're in taller places that would have survived the flood, you know, and then they don't like us little people, which I can understand.
Yeah, someone here said on the live that they think that the Vatican has the Library of Alexandria, which is a very good possibility.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a very good possibility, because you never really know what they have. And they removed, 13 books of the Bible, but I don't want to go down the religious road. Something,
right.
You know,
right.
that's something we don't want to go into.
It's crazy, huh?
So, giants are a staple in fantasy literature, from Lord of the Rings to fairy tales like Jack and the Beanstalk.
Right.
And artists like Goya and Gustave Doré depicted giants in ways that reflected human fears and struggles.
Right.
You know, literary giants often represent overwhelming obstacles or forces in a hero's journey. The depiction of giants can vary greatly, from grotesque and terrifying to wise and benevolent. Giants in art and literature often serve as metaphors for human limitations of the unknown. So, you know, we love the unknown, guys. I mean, if you're a follower of the podcast, you absolutely know that Bob and I love the unknown, and we love for you guys to...
like the books are a green screen. It's not.
No, the books aren't green screen, but they are fake. They are... we call this the Linen Library. So, the books are fake, but not green screen.
If they weren't there, you'd see my Christmas decorations.
we are deep underground in the vault of the Veritas Project,
right?
AKA Bob's basement. So, but we do have a full studio set up in here for you guys that are watching live. So, paleontological misinterpretations. That is two long words. That is a lot of letters.
Right.
Paleontological. So early paleontologists sometimes misidentified large fossils as evidence of giants. Gigantic prehistoric animals such as sauropods were initially thought to be linked to myths of giants, and misinterpretations often arose from lack of understanding of fossilization and prehistoric life. Modern paleontology has clarified these errors, linking fossils to known species rather than mythological beings.
Right.
These misunderstandings may have contributed to giant myths in ancient culture. But why is it all over the world?
Right.
If it's a misunderstanding, why is it all over the world?
Yeah.
Right? You know, and we encourage you guys to dip in to, you know, do some research on your own.
Do your own research.
You know, look into this stuff on your own. You know, we always like to, we don't want to tell you guys how to think. We just like to get you interested so you guys can go out and do some research on your own.
Yeah, don't follow the narrative.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
A lot of times the people, the media or the government will tell you, like, well, this is settled science. You're like, well, I'm asking you. So it's not settled, right?
Yeah, right? And until you are 100% proven, it's still a theory. And that's what the thing is. People don't understand that there are theories that we take as science, but it's really just a theory. We don't know for sure on a lot of things out there in science. So
the Kandahar giant. See, I was going to mention that because a good friend of mine deployed to Afghanistan, and he used to talk about how the locals were scared to death to go into the mountains at night.
Really?
Like, you would see them like billy goats come out of the mountains at night, and they would not go up there. They swore up and down that there were giants up there at night. And he used to tell them all the time. He's like, "There's no such thing as giants." And they're like, "Oh no, we've seen it. We've seen it." So like they swear that there's giants in Afghanistan.
So see, there's another step towards looking into it.
Yeah.
And the rabbit hole. But you know me, I wasn't a big Bigfoot advocate.
Right.
Until a few months ago when I saw something that I couldn't friggin' explain. Right?
That's what I was the same way. Like I used to say all the time, like, Bigfoot's so stupid because you would have seen one.
Yeah.
Or you would find a dead one, or you'd see a baby one, or some hunter would have come across one by now until I saw one. Like, clear as day, I was sitting I told you the story, I was in the back of my friend's Jeep, and the taillights illuminated this gigantic thing stepped right across the road, took one step and crossed the road. And I was absolutely gobsmacked. It, like, changed my whole world. I was like, I've never in my life seen anything. A bear couldn't do that.
When I saw the one I saw, it was during the day, and it covered like 10 feet in 2 steps, and disappeared behind a tree, and like went behind the tree and like vanished. Right? Didn't come out the other side of the tree. It's like there was a portal behind the tree it just went into, and and I didn't know what to say. I eventually, after like standing there for 5-10 minutes, I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a video about this, but I didn't know what to say. So.
Yeah, that's like a lot of people say when they experience something paranormal, or like they see a real UFO or whatever.
Right.
They were so like in the moment, like, there's a real UFO, and then it flies away, and you're like, wow. Like, oh, why didn't I take a picture of it? Like, why didn't I take a picture?
Well, I didn't have a chance. It happened so fast, but it's still, one of those situations. So, giants in pop culture.
Yeah.
Giants frequently appear in movies, video games, comic books as formidable adversaries and ancient beings.
Yep.
Modern giants are often portrayed as either monstrous or noble, depending on the narrative. Mm-hmm. Films like Attack on Titan and the BFG explore different aspects of giant mythology. Popular culture often mixes scientific concepts with fantasies to create believable giant creatures. Giants in modern media continue to evolve, reflecting contemporary concerns and storytelling trends.
Right.
So let's go into, lastly, the psychology and symbolic interpretations.
Right.
So giants can symbolize overwhelming challenges, fears, or unknown in psychological analysis. The figure of the giant often represents the shadow of darker aspects of the human psyche. In dreams, giants may symbolize authority figures, parent figures, or insurmountable obstacles. Symbolically, giants can also represent the tension between nature and civilization. The enduring fascination with giants may reflect deep-seated human fears of the vast and uncontrollable. So, there's a whole lot out there.
Yeah.
So, like we said, Bob and I always talk about a little bit of everything, and we encourage you guys to go out and do a little more research on your own.
100%. Especially on a topic like this, where it's easy to get into the weeds on something like this, because it's like I was talking about, like vampires, whereas like one culture has a myth and then another culture also has a similar myth, and you wonder, did they get that from trade,
right?
Or was it storytelling, or how does this?
Yeah, but how does this happen literally on opposite sides of the disc?
Oh yeah. Well, like the Chinese have, depictions of lions, and they're not native to China, and they have stories of like, flying UFO type objects in China and in India and in Mexico, and all these different cultures have this same sort of mythos, and it's like the period where people traveled on horseback,
right?
And little ships, like no one had crossed the ocean yet. How does this mythology carry through all of these cultures, unless there was something really there,
Yeah, but they don't want to show us that stuff. That's right. The problem is, you got to think, you know, how many years and years and years did they tell us that UFOs didn't exist?
Oh yeah.
And then they finally decided, what, last year, the year before?
Until recently.
Until recently, ago, you know, they decided, okay, guys, UFOs do exist. You know, it's like, what, you don't think you could have told us that before? Do you think we'd have went bananas or something?
I've known people who were passed away, you know, who made it their life's work to investigate UFOs. And they were called lunatics, you know, just the worst names you can imagine. Society just openly would dump on them, you know. And now they're like, oh yeah, there really are UFOs. We knew about it all this time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you ruined these people's lives.
Yeah, and that's something we've actually discussed, that the government has actually gone in and ruined people's lives to say, oh no, this didn't happen. In fact, we're here in St. Louis. We have one of the best UFO sightings ever documented that went on for hours and hours and hours overnight, documented by police officers, firefighters, and they tracked this thing through multiple counties. For half the night, they followed this thing around. And it finally, in the morning, it finally flew off during rush hour traffic in the morning. But they followed this thing from 2 or 3 in the morning until rush hour traffic.
Right.
They followed this big triangular UFO. Definitely look that one up. You know, big UFO sighting in St. Louis. That's one to check out. So
yeah, it's crazy. And you know, for the people to label you as you know, an extremist or a conspiracy theorist and stuff, you know, like a conspiracy theorist is just a person that's ahead of the times, you know, like they used to always talk about the Zapruder film, you know, like, well, look, at this shows that Kennedy was shot, you know, the one time, and then they're like, well, how come there's all these other bullets, you know? Right. And then now they've analyzed other footage and stitched it together and made 3D models, and they said that's impossible. It had to have been another shooter. Right. You know, so now they're coming out with all this stuff, and it's like, you know, on the one hand, you want to feel vindicated. You want to feel vindicated because you're like, I was right this whole time. But then at the same time, you're like, well, everybody else was wrong this whole time. You know, and you were like the one person who was like... Right. Right. And then Jeremiah on the live said... a conspiracy theory is only a theory until somebody proves it true. Right. You know? Yeah. So... That's like I always say that the funny thing that somebody told me once, like I can't remember to contribute it, but it was, he always said Cobra Snake made a fantastic pet until it didn't. Yeah. Until it didn't. Right. Exactly. The tiger was a fantastic pet until it wasn't. Until it wasn't. Right. So thank you guys for joining us on the podcast. We're going to hang around on the live for you guys and chit chat a bit. Yeah. But thank you guys for joining us on the podcast. Don't forget to check out all the social medias. Bob's is R.S. Curtis on everything, and the Real Veritas Project. Yeah. I'm Investigator Todd on everything. Bob's email, if you have something you guys want to send to us, is the Real Veritas Project at Gmail, and I'm investigator.todd.paranormal@gmail. And don't forget, guys, next week coming up, when this comes out on Monday, will be exactly 7 days from our first annual meet and greet of the podcast. We got people coming in from all over the country to hang out with us at the Lemp Mansion, which is one of the top 10 most haunted places in the country. We have 2 rooms available. One is kind of iffy right now. Someone's trying to decide whether or not. We have 2 rooms available still at $220 a room, and it is legitimately just our followers. Right. So it will be a great time. Nobody there to mess it up. And we're going to make a whole day of it. We're going to go to Cahokia Mounds, go get some lunch, then go do tours of the Lemp Mansion, do a Q&A, and it's going to be a fantastic time for everybody. A good time shall be had by all. Yeah, and I'm going to do the Spirit Box demo so everybody can see what a good Spirit Box looks like. So hear the good stuff. We're absolutely. Show you guys the new Ghost Tube app. You can experiment with that. So we'll have a bunch of stuff, and we'll see some things and have a good time. So guys, thank you once again for joining us on the Giants podcast, and remember, stay curious and find the truth, and we will catch you guys next week. Bye everybody. See ya.